Hi everyone, I'm Shaylin here with Reedsy. So today let's talk about how to set writing goals, and most importantly, set writing goals that actually work. There are a bunch of different ways to set writing goals. So today I've just assembled 6 different methods that you can use for setting writing goals in order to find the method of setting goals that works best for you. Goals are a really important part of many different writers' writing processes to keep on track, to stay motivated. Personally, for me, some ways of setting writing goals are so motivational and make me so productive and make me want to write, whereas others do the opposite. And I think a really important part of developing your writing process is finding the way of setting goals that best works for you. So method number 1 is deadlines, aka setting goals for when a project will be done. This is fairly straightforward. You basically just pick a date and this is your deadline for the project. Within that, you don't really have any way of scheduling yourself. It's just get it done by this date. The benefits of this is that it's very flexible. On a daily basis, you can write as much or as little as you want. It's just about getting it done by the deadline. So you can take breaks as needed, write more as needed, kind of adjust to your daily schedule. And it's also project-based. So rather than having to create some kind of consistent goal-setting system across multiple projects, you can just set a deadline for this project and tailor it to your needs for that project. I think the cons are that it can enable procrastination. If your deadline is far away, it can be easy to just put off starting. The goal isn't really structured in any way that will motivate you to begin immediately. There isn't really any daily accountability here. Some people like that, but if you need some kind of daily accountability, this may not work for you. Option number 2 is word goals. So setting goals for how many words you're going to write. This is setting a goal for how many words, chapters, pages, or scenes you'll write in a given time frame. So per day, week, month, or even year. The pros are that this really creates accountability because it's very easy to measure. It's really easy to measure how many words you wrote in a day. And so it really does create accountability. And if you're a numbers or data-driven person, this might really appeal to you. It can also just be really satisfying to keep track of your word count. The cons, though, are that this does kind of make writing into a numbers game. It doesn't account for factors that might affect the writing process. It just keeps track of the numbers. Personally, I don't use word count goals for this reason. I feel like measuring just based on word count completely ignores how much I enjoyed writing. For example, I could write 500 words, but they could be fantastic and I could love them. But if my goal was 1,000, I'll still feel like a failure, which is too bad. So that's why I don't really use word count goals. But if you're a really numbers driven person, they can be really satisfying as well to be able to log your word count on a daily basis. Option number 3 would be productivity goals. So this is setting goals for how often you're going to write. So instead of how much you're going to write, it's just how often. So for example, setting the goal to write every day, or setting the goal to write 4 days a week, or setting the goal to write every weekday. The pros is that this is pretty easy to maintain so long as the goal isn't super intense. You know, if you set a lower goal like 3 days a week, that's pretty easy to maintain and you can shuffle it around based on your schedule that week. It also puts the emphasis on building a habit, and it completely takes the pressure off the amount of work you create. The cons are that this may not be enough motivation or structure for some people. It can also do the thing where it leads to procrastination. You know, it's easy if your goal is to write 3 days a week to keep pushing it on a weekly basis to Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And it may just not be enough structure for some people to not have any kind of amount within the goal. Personally, I like that about this type of goal setting, and this is often what I use because I like that I can just make my goal to write this day and it doesn't matter how much, but for other people, this might be a detriment. Number 4 would be timeline goals. So this is a goal for how much you're going to do within a given time frame. Kind of like setting a deadline, but structured a little differently. This is kind of like a blend of deadlines and word count goals, but you can kind of use it to account for multiple projects. So for example, every month I'm going to write 2 chapters of my novel and a short story. Or I'm going to draft and revise a novel every year. The pros are that this is super flexible and you can use it to account for multiple projects. You can set these timeframes and limits however you like, really. Kind of takes the qualities of word count goals and setting a deadline and blending them together to create kind of a more personalized writing routine. I think the cons are that it's easy to overload yourself with too much work. It's easy looking at a month to say, wow, I can do all of this in a month. But can you really do all this in a month? It can also facilitate procrastination if you're setting larger goals based on monthly or yearly timeframes. Number 5 would be cyclical goals. So this is goals for maintaining a routine. So this is creating some kind of repeatable routine to your writing habit. For example, I'm gonna write for 3 days and then 2 days off. Or if I'm writing 2 books at once, I'm gonna alternate writing them each day. Or I'm gonna write for 2 weeks and then take a week off. The pros are that this can help you avoid burnout by building breaks into your routine, so you don't get to a point where you feel like you just have to keep writing because you've set this goal, even if you're feeling really exhausted. It actually frames breaks as part of the goal. So it's great for people who might have the tendency to overwork themselves. And it also just builds habit and routine, which is really important for long-term success. The cons are that it doesn't really work for people who don't like routine. For people who want to be able to kind of just change up what they're doing all the time rather than stick to a given routine, setting a goal based on a routine probably isn't going to work for you. And finally, number 6 is blended goals, which is basically just a mix of whatever type of goal setting system you want. So switching up the way that you set goals depending on what you need. So basically you just use whichever goal setting method you need in the moment. Maybe you're on deadline and so you're like, okay, I have to set a deadline, and in order to reach the deadline, I need to write X number of words a day. Or maybe you're at a point where you feel like you want to take a more relaxed approach, but you still want to keep yourself accountable, so you're just going to set the goal to write 2 days a week. Maybe you're working on multiple projects at once, so you're going to set a cyclical goal to get both things done. But you're just going to continually switch it up based on your needs at the time and based on the project. Really, the only con I can think of here, because the whole point of this goal setting system is to just do what you need in the moment, which I think is the most important thing, is that it may just not be enough structure for beginners, especially if you're a beginner and you haven't figured out which methods benefit you in which case. This might seem too overwhelming and you may need a bit more of a consistent structure. But I think if you've tried out different methods of setting goals and you figured out when they do and don't work for you, then it's great to reach a point where you can kind of just adapt those methods as need be. So those are 6 ways of setting goals for your writing. I would love to hear how you set goals for your writing in the comments. So thank you so much for watching. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any new videos from us. We've got new writing, editing, and publishing tips every Tuesday and Friday. Until next time, bye.